Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. I came home from the gym earlier than planned. The treadmill had broken mid-run, and I figured I'd finish my workout tomorrow. As I walked up to our building in the Pearl District, I noticed the lights were on in our apartment. Music was playing. Melissa was having her friends over again. I almost turned around. These gatherings always followed the same pattern. I'd walk in, say hello, get barely acknowledged, then retreat to the bedroom while they laughed and drank wine until midnight. But I lived there too. I shouldn't have to hide in my own home. I took the elevator up and unlocked the door quietly. The laughter hit me immediately. Loud, careless laughter coming from the living room. I set my gym bag down in the entryway and was about to announce myself when I heard Melissa's voice. Okay, I have one. What's the difference between my husband and a doormat? The room went quiet. I could picture them leaning in, waiting for the punchline. My hand froze on my gym bag. Before Melissa could answer, Kelly's voice cut through. A doormat has more backbone. The room erupted. I stood there, completely still, listening to them laugh at me. Close, Melissa said through her laughter. At least a doormat knows its place is on the floor. Russell thinks he's part of the furniture. More laughter. Wine glasses clinking. My grip tightened on the bag strap. Melissa, that's terrible, Hannah said, but she was laughing too. What? It's true. Last week, I mentioned wanting new kitchen appliances, and 2 days later there's a stand mixer on the counter. I didn't even ask for it. He just gets things. That sounds amazing though, Paige said. It's convenient, sure, but it's like living with a really helpful golden retriever. All eagerness, no substance. I felt my heart pounding. It was already elevated from the gym, but now it was racing for a completely different reason. Does he ever push back on anything? Kelly asked. Never. That's the problem. I could literally tell him I'm going to Europe for a month with my friends, and he'd just ask when to pick me up from the airport. The group laughed again. I heard Kelly's voice rise above the others. To the most trained husband in Portland. Cheers to that, someone said. Honestly, Melissa continued, her voice full of amusement. I don't know how I got so lucky. He works, pays for everything, and stays out of my way. It's like having a live-in ATM. That was it. That was the moment everything crystallized. I wasn't her husband. I was a resource, a convenience, a punchline. I didn't storm into the room. I didn't demand an explanation. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing my reaction. Instead, I picked up my gym bag, walked back out the door, and closed it quietly behind me. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes. The engine wasn't running. I just sat there, staring at the concrete wall in front of me, replaying everything I'd heard. This wasn't new behavior. This was just the first time I'd heard it spoken out loud. All the dismissive comments, the performative affection in public, the constant requests. It all made sense now. She didn't love me. She used me. My phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. Where are you? You were supposed to be home by now. I didn't respond. Instead, I started the car and drove to Trevor's place in Hawthorne. On the way, I called him. Hey man, what's up? He answered. I need a place to stay tonight. I'll explain when I get there. There was a pause. Okay, yeah, come over. I wasn't going to be the punchline anymore. But I also wasn't going to give Melissa the satisfaction of a big dramatic exit. No, I was going to be methodical, strategic, and by the time she realized what was happening, it would be too late. Trevor opened the door before I could knock. He took one look at my face and stepped aside. Come in. You want a beer? Yeah. We sat on his couch, and I told him everything. The joke, the laughter, the live-in ATM comment, everything I'd heard. I never liked how she talked to you, man. But this, he shook his head. This is something else. I'm done, Trevor. Completely done. So what are you going to do? That's when I started planning. Trevor grabbed a notebook, and we made a list. Assets, accounts, legal considerations. The apartment lease was in my name only. I'd signed it before we got married. All the major accounts were mine. She was just an authorized user. Most of the furniture was either mine from before the marriage or things I'd purchased. My phone kept buzzing. Melissa's texts were escalating. This is ridiculous. Come home. Are you seriously going to ignore me? Fine. Be childish. I didn't respond to any of them. You need to file for divorce, Trevor said. Document everything. Protect your assets. I know, but I need to do this right. I need to time it perfectly. Trevor looked at me. What are you thinking? She humiliated me in front of her friends. I'm going to return the favor. By 2 in the morning, I had a plan. File for divorce. Move my money. Cancel the credit cards. Wait for the right moment. Then deliver the papers in front of the same audience that had laughed at me. I finally texted Melissa back. I'm fine. Staying at Trevor's. Need some space. She responded immediately. Space? What does that even mean? I turned off my phone and went to sleep on Trevor's couch. For the first time in months, I felt clear. Sunday morning, I went to a coffee shop and spent 6 hours researching Oregon divorce law. No fault state. Straightforward process, if uncontested. I took screenshots of our bank statements. The spending patterns were obvious. Constant purchases at expensive stores. Regular spa visits. Shopping sprees. All on my dime. Melissa sent more texts. Russell, please call me. I'm getting concerned. I still didn't respond. Monday morning, I had an appointment with a divorce attorney. Her office was on Southwest 5th Avenue, sleek and professional. I brought all my documentation. She reviewed everything and looked up at me. This is very straightforward. You have a strong position. How long have you been married? For years. Any children? No. Shared property? The apartment lease is in my name. Most of the belongings are mine. She nodded. This should move quickly. I can have papers drafted by end of week. I paid the retainer. On my way out, Melissa called. I let it go to voicemail. Then I texted her. I'm fine. Just need some time to think. Tuesday, I opened a new checking account at a different bank. Over the next few days, I transferred money in small increments. Nothing obvious. Nothing that would trigger alerts. I changed my direct deposit to the new account. I removed Melissa as an authorized user on my credit cards. The existing balance was still there, but she couldn't make new charges. I updated my insurance beneficiaries. Changed passwords on my personal accounts. Started looking at studio apartments in Selwood. Melissa's texts changed tone. Okay, you've made your point. Can we please talk? Wednesday afternoon, she tried a different approach. I know you heard us Saturday. I'm sorry it came across wrong. It was just girl talk. You know how it is. I responded this time. We'll talk soon. That gave her hope. Kept her complacent. She needed to think everything was salvageable. The papers would be ready by the following Monday. Thursday night, I went back to the apartment. Melissa was there, and she practically threw herself at me. I missed you. I was so worried. Work's been stressful, I said. Just needed to clear my head. She believed it instantly. That night, she mentioned wanting to plan another gathering with her friends. Sure, whatever you want, I said. Her relief was visible. She thought the crisis was over. She thought she'd won. Friday, the attorney called. Papers will be ready Monday. When do you want to serve her? I'll let you know. I'm waiting for the right moment. Saturday, Melissa was planning a brunch with the same friends. I helped her set up. She was back to her usual self. Dismissive. Ordering me around. Can you run to the store? I forgot mimosa ingredients. Sure. Actually pick up good champagne this time. Not that cheap stuff. I bought the expensive bottle. Smiled when I handed it to her. She didn't even say thank you. Her friends arrived. Kelly, Hannah, Paige. The same group that had laughed at the doormat joke. I stayed in the background, watching them, listening to them. Melissa was in her element, playing the perfect hostess. Not yet, I thought. I need the divorce papers in hand first. Monday came. The papers were delivered to Trevor's apartment. I read through them carefully. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Asset division. Lease termination notice. Everything was there. Melissa had no idea. I continued coming home each night, acting like everything was normal. She mentioned planning a wine and cheese night that Saturday. We're doing a whole thing. Probably will get loud. I'll stay out of the way, I said. She patted my arm. You're so understanding. That week, I finished transferring the last of the movable funds. I called the bank and had the joint account closed. I notified our landlord of the upcoming change. I rented a storage unit and started moving my personal items out gradually. Books, photos, things that were clearly mine. Melissa noticed nothing. Friday night, I confirmed the plan with Trevor. Tomorrow night. Same time as before. Same people. You're really doing this? She wanted an audience. She'll have one. Saturday evening, I left the apartment at 6. Told Melissa I was running errands. I drove around for an hour, the divorce papers in an envelope on my passenger seat. At 7:30, I headed back. The gathering was in full swing when I walked in. Same scene as 2 weeks ago. Wine flowing. Laughter loud. The same 4 women sitting in our living room. Melissa looked up when I entered. "Oh, you're back early." Her tone was dismissive, slightly annoyed that I was interrupting. Kelly glanced at me. "We're still going strong here, Russell." The implication was clear. "Make yourself scarce." "I can see that," I said. "Actually, I need to talk to Melissa for a moment." Melissa frowned. "Can it wait? We're kind of in the middle of something." Paige, emboldened by wine, laughed. "What's the difference between Russell and a doormat?" The group perked up. They recognized the callback joke. Kelly jumped in. "A doormat stays put." They erupted in laughter again. Hannah looked slightly uncomfortable, but still smiled. Melissa laughed along. "And a doormat doesn't hover when you're trying to have fun," Melissa added. I reached into my jacket pocket. "You're right about one thing," I said. The room started to quiet. They sensed the change in my tone. "A doormat stays put." I pulled out the envelope and placed it on the coffee table in front of Melissa. "I'm leaving." Melissa stared at the envelope. "What is this?" "Open it." She hesitated, then slid a manicured nail under the seal. She pulled out the papers and started reading. Her eyes scanned the first page. I watched her face change as she realized what she was holding. "What?" She flipped to the second page. Then the third. "What is this?" Kelly leaned over. "Oh my God." Hannah covered her mouth. Paige pulled out her phone. Melissa looked up at me. You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." "Because of a joke? You're divorcing me over a joke?" "Not a joke. A pattern. I'm divorcing you because you see me as a doormat. A train dog. A live-in ATM. Your words." Her face went pale. "I never. 2 weeks ago. Right here. I heard all of it." The room went completely silent. "You were spying on me?" "I came home to my own apartment and overheard my wife mocking me to her friends." "That's not spying. That's discovery." She looked at her friends for support. "This is insane, right? Tell him this is insane." No one spoke. Kelly shifted uncomfortably. Hannah looked at the floor. Paige was definitely recording. "The apartment lease is in my name," I continued. "You have 30 days to find somewhere else, per Oregon law. The joint accounts are closed. The credit cards are canceled. I've taken only what's mine." Melissa's voice rose. "Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to? That's no longer my problem. You wanted a doormat. Turns out you needed a provider. There's a difference." I picked up my gym bag from where I'd left it by the door. I'd placed it there earlier as a deliberate callback to that first night. "Enjoy your evening, ladies." I walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't wait for a response. Just walked out with complete composure. Behind me, I heard the explosion of voices. Melissa's voice rising above the others. But I was already in the hallway. Already heading to the elevator. Already done. My phone started buzzing before I got to my car. Call after call from Melissa. I let them all go to voicemail. By the time I got to Trevor's, I had 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. I read through them. Watched her cycle through the stages. Anger first. "How dare you humiliate me like that? You're a coward. Everyone saw you do that to me." Then manipulation. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean those things." It was the wine talking. "We can work through this." Then practical reality. My card was declined. The account shows 0 balance. How am I supposed to buy food? I sent one text. "Contact my attorney. Information is in the papers." Then I blocked her number. Trevor handed me a beer. "How do you feel?" "Free." The next few days were quiet. My attorney handled all communication. Melissa tried calling from different numbers. I didn't answer. She sent emails. I forwarded them to my attorney without reading them. By Wednesday, I heard through mutual friends what was happening. She tried to rally her support system, but it wasn't working. She'd called Kelly asking to stay with her. Kelly claimed her place was too small. She'd called Hannah. Hannah said she was traveling for work. Paige didn't even return her call. A mutual friend forwarded me screenshots from their group chat. I hadn't asked for them, but I read them anyway. Paige had written, "I cannot believe that just happened." Kelly responded, "I feel bad, but also that was kind of amazing." Hannah wrote, "We shouldn't have laughed at those jokes. We encouraged her." Paige replied, "Oh please." She made her bed. They weren't supporting Melissa because they agreed with me. They were distancing themselves because she was no longer useful to them. Without access to money and lifestyle, she had nothing they wanted. I started looking at apartments seriously. Found a studio in Selwood. Smaller than what I'd had, but it was mine. Just mine. I signed the lease and started moving in. I took only what was clearly mine from the Pearl District apartment. My books, my clothes, my electronics. I left all her belongings untouched. Left the furniture we'd bought together. I didn't want any of it. Those were artifacts of a life I was glad to leave behind. Week 2 after the confrontation, I got another forwarded screenshot. Melissa had tried to make purchases on the canceled credit cards. Every single one was declined. She'd checked the joint account and found it closed. She'd called the bank and discovered she had no authority over any of my accounts. Her lifestyle was crumbling in real time, and she was finally understanding the situation. She had no income, no savings, no backup plan, no support system. She moved in with her sister in Beaverton. I heard about it through Claire, a friend from college who'd reconnected with me after hearing about the separation. We met for coffee. "You seem different," Claire said. "Lighter. I feel like myself again. We all worried about you, you know." That relationship seemed exhausting. I realized then that my friends had seen what I couldn't. They'd watched me slowly disappear into the role of provider, of doormat, of resource. And now they were watching me come back. I started going to the gym regularly again, not rushing home to avoid judgment. I took up mountain biking, something I'd always wanted to do, but Melissa had called boring. I spent weekends hiking in the Columbia River Gorge. I read books, cooked meals for myself, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the marriage. My life became mine again. The divorce moved forward quickly, uncontested. Melissa didn't have the resources to fight it. No alimony since the marriage was short, and she was capable of working. Asset division was straightforward. Everything I'd brought into the marriage or purchased during it stayed mine. 6 weeks after I'd walked out, the divorce was finalized. The court date was brief and procedural. Melissa didn't even attend. My attorney said she'd signed everything without protest. I walked out of the courthouse feeling nothing but relief. 3 months passed. I got a promotion at work. My focus and energy had returned. I was saving money for the first time in years. No surprise charges. No constant requests. Just steady, deliberate progress toward my own goals. I dated casually. Nothing serious. I wasn't rushing into anything. But it was nice to spend time with people who saw me as a person, not a resource. I barely thought about Melissa anymore. When I did, I felt no anger. No satisfaction in her struggles. Just indifference. She was a closed chapter. Not even a particularly important one. One Saturday morning, 4 months after the divorce, I stopped at Stumptown Coffee on Southeast Division before a bike ride. I was checking my phone while waiting for my order when I heard a familiar voice. "Russell?" I looked up. Melissa was standing there. She looked different. Less polished. No expensive clothes or salon-styled hair. Just simple jeans and a plain shirt. She looked tired but was trying to appear put together. "Hey," I said. She gave me an awkward smile. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. "Hey." There was a pause. I didn't help fill the silence. "You look good. Really good." "Thanks. Can we talk for a minute?" I know I don't have the right to ask. I checked my watch. "I have a few minutes." We stepped aside from the counter. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "For real, not like before." "Okay. I was awful to you. I see that now. I took advantage of your kindness and mocked you for it. It was who you were. I'm different now. I've had to be." "Good for you." I wasn't being sarcastic. I genuinely didn't care enough to be sarcastic. I lost everything, you know. The apartment, the friends, the lifestyle. I heard. Was it worth it? Blowing up our marriage like that? I didn't blow it up. I left it. There's a difference. In front of everyone. You humiliated me. You humiliated me for months, maybe years. I just matched the audience. She was quiet for a moment. I guess I deserve that. This isn't about deserving anything. It's about consequences. Do you hate me? No. Her expression shifted, almost hopeful. So there's a chance. No. I don't hate you, but I also don't care. We're divorced. We're done. That's it. The barista called my name. I grabbed my coffee and turned back to Melissa. "I hope things work out for you. Genuinely." I started walking toward the door. "Russell?" I stopped and turned. "Were you really that unhappy? The whole time?" I was the punchline to a joke I didn't know I was part of. "What do you think?" I walked out into the sunlight, got on my bike, and headed toward Forest Park. The trees were just starting to show their fall colors. The trail stretched out ahead of me, clear and open. I thought about the encounter for maybe 5 minutes. Then I focused on the trail, the rhythm of pedaling, the cool air. The freedom of having nowhere I had to be and nothing I had to prove. The doormat had left, and he'd never looked back. I spent that afternoon riding through Forest Park, taking trails I'd never explored before. No schedule, no one waiting for me. Just the bike, the trail, and the quiet of the woods. When I got back to my apartment in Selwood, I made dinner for myself. Something simple. A stir-fry with vegetables from the farmer's market. I ate on my small balcony, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. Want to grab drinks tomorrow? Yeah, sounds good, I replied. Claire had also messaged. Book club next week. You coming? Definitely. This was my life now. Simple, peaceful, mine. No constant demands. No walking on eggshells. No wondering if I was doing enough or being enough. I was just existing, and that was enough. Sunday morning, I met Trevor at a coffee shop. Different one than yesterday. We talked about normal things. Work. His new girlfriend. Plans for Thanksgiving. You seem really good, man, he said. Better than I've seen you in years. I feel good. Any regrets? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, not about leaving. Maybe about staying as long as I did. Trevor nodded. She ever try to contact you again after yesterday? No. I think she finally gets it. We finished our coffee and walked around the neighborhood. The morning was clear, the kind of Portland fall day that makes you remember why you live here despite the rain. You know what's funny? I said. I thought I'd feel angry or bitter. I thought there'd be this weight I'd carry around. But there's nothing. She's just someone I used to know. That's probably the healthiest possible outcome. Yeah, I think so too. Monday morning, my boss called me into his office. For a split second, old anxiety kicked in. The version of me that was married to Melissa would have immediately worried. Wondered what I'd done wrong. But I wasn't that person anymore. Russell, sit down. I wanted to talk to you about something. Sure. Your work over the past few months has been exceptional. I've noticed a real change. More focus. More initiative. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I smiled. Thank you. I appreciate that. We have a senior position opening up. I'd like you to consider applying. It would mean more responsibility, better pay, and honestly, I think you're ready for it. 6 months ago, I would have hesitated, worried about how the extra hours might affect Melissa, whether she'd be upset about me being home less. Now I just thought about whether I wanted the challenge. I'm interested. Send me the details. Excellent. I'll email you this afternoon. I walked back to my desk feeling energized. The promotion wasn't guaranteed, but the fact that I was even being considered felt like validation. Not of my worth as a resource or provider, but of my actual capabilities. That week at work, a colleague stopped by my desk. Amanda from the marketing team. We'd worked together on a few projects, but never talked much outside of work. Hey, I heard you were single now, she said. Some of us are going to a trivia night Thursday. Want to come? I smiled. Sure, that sounds fun. She handed me a flyer with the details. Great. See you there. It wasn't a date, just a friendly invitation. But 6 months ago, I would have immediately thought about Melissa's reaction. What she'd say, whether she'd be upset. Now I just thought about whether I wanted to go. And I did. Tuesday afternoon, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Professor Mitchell from college. He was sitting in the same coffee shop where I'd had that encounter with Melissa, grading papers. Russell Hayes? Is that you? I turned. Professor Mitchell. Wow. It's been what, 8 years? At least. Sit down, sit down. What have you been up to? We talked for an hour. I told him about my work, about the potential promotion. I found myself mentioning the divorce, though I kept it brief. Going through a divorce, that's tough, he said. But you seem like you're handling it well. I am. Better than I expected, actually. He studied me for a moment. You know, I remember you in my classes. Bright student. But you always seemed like you were holding something back. Like you were afraid to take up space. That observation hit me harder than I expected. Yeah, I said. I think that's been a pattern for me. And now I'm learning to take up space. To believe I'm worth it. He smiled. That's the best education you can get. Most people never learn that lesson. We exchanged contact information before parting. He mentioned a networking group for professionals in our field. Said I should come to the next meeting. I told him I would. Thursday night, I met Amanda and 3 other colleagues at a bar in Southeast. We formed a team for trivia. I discovered I was good at history questions. We came in 3rd place and won a round of drinks. On the way home, I realized I'd spent 3 hours not thinking about my divorce once, not dwelling on the past, not planning the future, just existing in the moment and enjoying it. Friday evening, I got an unexpected message from Hannah, Melissa's friend from the gatherings. Hey Russell, I know this is probably weird to hear from me. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how we treated you. We were terrible, and you didn't deserve that. I should have said something instead of just going along with it. Anyway, I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a minute. Then I typed back. I appreciate you saying that. Takes courage to admit when you're wrong. You're being way more gracious than I deserve. But thank you. We're good, I wrote. And I meant it. I wasn't interested in holding grudges or collecting apologies. I'd already moved on. The fact that some people were realizing their mistakes was their journey, not mine. Saturday, I took my bike out to the Columbia River Gorge, rode for hours along the historic highway, stopped at Multnomah Falls and had lunch at a small cafe, talked to other cyclists about trails and bikes and nothing of consequence. A woman around my age struck up a conversation while we were both looking at a trail map. Her name was Jennifer. She was training for a triathlon. You ever done one? She asked. No, but I've thought about it. You should. There's a beginner one next spring. Good community. We talked for 20 minutes about training and routes and the best bike shops in Portland. She gave me her number. If you ever want a riding partner. I saved it. Didn't know if I'd use it. But it was nice to be seen as just a person again. Not a provider. Not a resource. Just someone who liked bikes. Sunday morning, I woke up in my small apartment and made coffee. Sat on my balcony in the cool morning air. Thought about everything that had happened over the past 4 months. The humiliation, the planning, the confrontation, the aftermath, the divorce, the rebuilding. All of it felt distant now, like it had happened to someone else. That version of Russell who'd stood frozen in his entryway listening to his wife mock him felt like a different person. I wasn't him anymore. I'd walk through fire and come out the other side. Stronger, clearer, free. That afternoon, I did something I'd thought about for years but never acted on. I went to a local community center and signed up to volunteer. They had a program teaching basic financial literacy to people who needed it. Budget planning, saving strategies, how to avoid predatory lending. The coordinator, a woman named Patricia, interviewed me briefly. What made you interested in volunteering? She asked. I'm good with money, and I think everyone deserves to understand how to manage it, regardless of their background. That's exactly the attitude we need. Can you start next Saturday? Absolutely. Walking out of that community center, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose that had nothing to do with providing for someone else or meeting someone else's expectations. This was about using my skills to actually help people. My phone buzzed. Text from Claire. Hiking next weekend? Absolutely. I finished my coffee and got ready for the day. Had no plans. No obligations. Just time and space and possibility. The doormat had left. And in leaving, he'd found himself. I thought about Melissa sometimes. Wondered if she'd figured things out. If she'd learned anything from what happened. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. She was part of my past. A lesson learned. A chapter closed. And I was busy writing new chapters. Better ones. Ones where I was the author, not just a supporting character in someone else's story. The sun broke through the clouds, casting light across my balcony. I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door. The city was waiting. My city. My life. My terms. And that felt exactly right. The following Saturday, I showed up for my first volunteer session. 5 people in the class. A young mother. An older man recently unemployed. A couple saving for a house. We spent 2 hours on budgeting basics. Tracking expenses. Needs versus wants. Emergency funds. A woman named Jessica raised her hand. What if you're already behind? Then you start from where you are, I said. Not from where you wish you were. At the end, a man named Bill thanked me. I've been embarrassed about not knowing this stuff. You're learning. That's what matters. Walking to my car, I realized something. I felt genuinely useful. Not as someone's ATM, but helping people build skills that lasted. 2 weeks later, I attended Professor Mitchell's networking event, full of professionals from various industries. I spent the evening making genuine connections about mutual respect and shared interests. A woman named Diana talked to me about the volunteer work. That shows character, she said. I'm doing it because I want to. She smiled. That's what makes it valuable. I left with promising contacts and an invitation to speak on a panel at a local university. Driving home that night, I took a detour past the Pearl District apartment. Not because I was dwelling on the past, just because it was on the way and I was curious. The lights were on in what used to be my living room. Someone else lived there now. Someone else's story was unfolding in those rooms. Mine had moved on. I pulled over for a moment and looked up at the windows. Tried to feel something. Anger, regret, sadness, anything. There was nothing. Just a building where I used to live. Just a chapter that was finished. I drove on. Back at my apartment in Selwood, I made tea and sat on my balcony. It was late October now, 5 months since the confrontation. The air had that crisp quality that promised rain. I thought about the man I'd been. The one who'd come home from the gym that night and overheard his wife calling him a doormat. He felt like a stranger to me now. That man had believed his worth was tied to how much he could give, how much he could provide, how little space he could take up. He'd thought love meant erasing yourself to make room for someone else. I knew better now. Real love didn't diminish you. It didn't require you to be smaller so someone else could feel bigger. Real love built both people up. And being alone? Being alone was infinitely better than being with someone who saw you as a resource. My phone rang. Trevor. Hey man, want to grab breakfast tomorrow? There's someone I want you to meet. Who? Just trust me. I smiled. Okay. Where and when? Pine Street Market. 9 a.m. The next morning, I met Trevor at the food hall. He was there with a woman I didn't recognize. She was around my age, with an easy smile and paint-stained jeans. Russell, this is Morgan. Morgan, my brother Russell. She shook my hand. Trevor's told me a lot about you. All lies, I'm sure. She laughed. Actually, all good things. He says you're doing some interesting volunteer work. We got food and sat down. Morgan was an artist who also taught workshops for at-risk youth. We talked about community engagement, about finding purpose in helping others, about creativity and problem solving. It wasn't a setup. Trevor wasn't trying to matchmake. He just thought two people with similar values should meet. And he was right. By the end of breakfast, Morgan and I had exchanged numbers, and she'd invited me to check out her youth workshop sometime. I could use someone who understands money, she said. These kids need to know about budgeting and financial planning, not just art. I'd be happy to help. Walking back to my car, I thanked Trevor. For what? For being there. That first night. Every step after. You didn't judge. You just helped. He shrugged. You're my brother. That's what family does. Still, thank you. He smiled. You're doing good, Russell. Really good. I'm proud of you. That Thursday, I went to trivia night with Amanda and the others from work. We had a great time. Didn't win, but came close. Afterward, a few of us went to get late-night pizza. Amanda sat next to me. You know, everyone at work has noticed the change in you. You seem happier. I am happier. What changed? I thought about how to answer that. I stopped living for someone else's approval and started living for myself. She nodded. That's brave. It didn't feel brave. It felt necessary. We talked until midnight. About work, about life, about what we wanted for ourselves. She was smart and funny and saw me as a person, not a role. When we left, she hugged me goodbye. Same time next week? Definitely. Walking to my car, I felt content. Not desperate for connection. Not lonely. Just open to whatever came next. November arrived. 6 months since everything had changed. I got the promotion. The senior position came with a significant raise and more responsibility. I celebrated with Trevor and Claire. To new beginnings, Claire raised her glass. To new beginnings, we echoed. That night, lying in bed in my Selwood apartment, I thought about how far I'd come. From that moment of frozen horror in the entryway to this. To a life that was genuinely mine. The doormat metaphor seemed almost funny now. Doormats get walked on. They stay in place no matter what. I wasn't a doormat. I never had been. I'd just been someone who didn't know his own worth. Someone who confused accommodation with love. Now I knew better. And I would never forget that lesson. I fell asleep easily. No anxiety. No second guessing. Just peace. The doormat had left. And in leaving, he'd found himself. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.